Dylan Mulvaney became a social media superstar for documenting her gender transition online. She also stood strong against the hateful backlash and boycott after her Bud Light branded post went viral. Now she's sharing her journey in a candid and witty new memoir called Paper Doll. Please welcome Dylan Mulvaney. Welcome to The View. Welcome to The View.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Anna has the first question.
So, Dylan, in 2022, you publicly came out as transgender on social media, and you started documenting the first 100 days of your transition. And those posts have now more than 1 billion, with a B, views.
Crazy.
Yeah. So why did you decide to document that, and how was the reaction?
Yeah, well, I think when I came out to my mom when I was 4, and I didn't know how other trans women were getting to the, to where they were going on their journeys. And I look at someone like Laverne Cox, who you recently had on the show, and actually this feels like a school presentation when you go up after someone who's like really good at what they were doing, and I'm like, oh shoot. But I think that I didn't know how to get to where women were like Laverne. And so I was like, let me start at the beginning. And I also was doing stand-up comedy in LA at the time. And I wanted to find the funny way into coming out, because I had already come out 2 times before that. And I was like, oh gosh, this needs to, be a little bit lighter of something. So I tried to make people laugh. And I think that comedy's a really good way into, touching people's hearts and changing minds. And then what ended up happening was a lot of support, but a lot of hate. Yeah. And I'm a people pleaser, so I wanted to make the haters see that there were other parts of me and that I am a 3-dimensional person. And so I've kind of taken people along this journey and gotten a lot more vulnerable than I ever thought I would, and overshared a lot more than I thought I ever would have.
Dylan, wait, real quickly, Alyssa, before you go. I think people need to hear this. When you say you came out at 4, I don't think people understand all the time that sometimes a little child will come to the parent, which is what you did, and said, I feel like I'm in the wrong body, like what I am on the inside. Because so often, sadly, it's misassigned to schools and someone's trying to change someone. Oftentimes this happens before the children are even out of the house.
Right.
Right? I think that's such an important point.
Thank you. And I think that I think I knew how I felt. I knew even my sister tells me a story of like, I went into the girls' bathroom in kindergarten, and a teacher had to pull me out because that's where I thought I was supposed to be.
Thank God Nancy Mace wasn't your teacher.
Well, and Dylan, so as you mentioned, you told your parents when you were 4 years old. How did they react then, and do they support you now?
Yes, well, I come from a very conservative Catholic family.
Oh, gosh.
But I feel lucky because I now am in such a great place with them. There's love there, despite our different views. And I think that's what, thank you.
Good.
And hi, Mom, I love you. And I think that's what's so frustrating about what happened with sort of, I call it Beergate in the book. But it's that I know that there's a possibility for love and understanding when a connection is made. And that's what I had with my family. And, I think my mom said something along the lines of, God doesn't make mistakes, but I don't think God sees me as a mistake. And I actually am still really trying to keep a relationship with the higher power, because I think that, trans and queer people are entitled to that if that's what they're looking for.
Can I just tell you something? So the first transgender person I met is Rigo Ross Layton, and he's the son of a very conservative Cuban-American Republican Congresswoman, Ileana Ross Layton, who was in Congress representing Little Havana when Rigo transgendered. And everybody supported it because I think people know and respect when you put love above anything else.
Yes, 1,000%. And I will always lead with joy. And I think that's what the book is really queer joy.
It's joyful.
Thank you.
Well, Dylan, as you got more popular on social media, you started doing some brand deals with different companies.
I did, honey.
Including, as you would call Beergate, Bud Light. A branded post that you did for them went viral. There were angry protests denouncing the brand. The company got bomb threats. You were the lead topic on conservative media for months, and it became known as one of the biggest boycotts in American history.
Yes.
Now, what people didn't see with all this backlash, it caused you to have suicidal ideations. What did you experience at this time, and what helped you get through it?
Right. Well, I will start by saying I love beer, and I always have.
I was gonna say, what were they thinking?
So, I mean, when I took that deal, I didn't think anything of it because I was like, oh, this is perfect. It felt like an organic thing to do, and because it was just another part of me. And I think what was so confusing about how it was going on was that it kept going, and I realized I had become the poster child for this thing. When transness is just a small part of me. I'm a musical theater girl through and through. And so I think that as that was, I didn't have all the resources that I needed to get through. And I'm the most privileged of transness. So I think that just goes to show how the rest of the community is hurting and the resources that we need. But what I think was really special about writing about the experience was that people see me as this like eternal optimist. But I think sometimes the people that are seen that way are often the ones that are hurting the most. And what brings me the most joy is my gender euphoria. And to have that used against me was such a mind game. But I went and did ayahuasca, which I write about, which just gets a little woo-woo in there. But I think it was really the people around me and the trans women in my life that supported me during that time and took my hand and said, this is our reality, welcome. That's what got me through.
I wanted to ask you, because there's been all of this debate about whether transgender athletes should be able to compete. And last week, California Governor Gavin Newsom said that he thinks that trans athletes competing in girls' and women's sports was deeply unfair. Now, I want to hear what you think, because I'll tell you what I think, too.
Yeah. The last time I played a sport, I was 6 years old, and I was on a soccer team, but I assigned myself as the nurse. So I sat with the Band-Aids. And so, in the words of Wicked, I am not that girl. But a dear friend of mine, Skylar, he is a trans athlete. His handle's Pink Manta Ray. That's someone who I really look to for guidance. And I think that is what's tricky, is like, now stepping in this identity. I'm still like a baby trans. You know, I've only 3 years in. Tomorrow's my anniversary.
Your friend went Your friend went from female to male and is competing with other males.
Correct.
No.
Yes.
Her friend.
Yes.
Her friend
friend.
went from female to male and is competing with other
So
males.
Gavin doesn't have a problem with that.
Well, I think part of the problem that the trans community is facing, and it's the same problem that women face, is if you don't know anything about our bodies, you don't know how it works. So when you come in and you say, oh, you know, these are men, you know,
competing
against women, you're assuming that the women are weak and just can't do anything except be here. Have you seen female athletes? They know what they're doing. So I'm not sure what's going on or why this is an issue. The same for me as when people say, oh, you know, I don't know how I feel about you. You do. God doesn't make mistakes.
No.
And the challenge is not to the trans people, it's to the people who are not trans. That's what God is looking to see, how you treat people.
Yeah.
That's what is happening. So I was
Absolutely
just
right.
curious as to what I liked your answer.
Thank you.
I liked your answer.